Hi everyone, Harry here to talk about new jurisdictions getting in on the Trump accountability parade. So, of course, we know about the charges in Manhattan. We know about the charges likely coming in Fulton County. We know about the federal charges. But they're now, it seems clear, are investigations ongoing in Michigan and perhaps also activity in Arizona and Wisconsin. Those are the three states in which the phony elector schemes seemed most advanced and most crass, in the sense that the people who were perpetrating them were just flat out misrepresenting that they were Trump electors. And that they were entitled to the things they were doing when they weren't, as contrasted, say, with a state like Pennsylvania, where they were circumspect enough to say, if the courts so hold or determine that we're permitted to do it. So it's less the specific charges and more just how this is a whole new appendage. And especially what's going on in Michigan is pretty interesting. We now know there is a grand jury that has been convened. They are being very buttoned down about it. Michigan, like all jurisdictions, its grand jury proceedings are sacrosanct and they don't say what's happening. But we've been able to discern the basic subject matter, and it is nasty. So there have been, to date, reports of different charges, allegations with software and the like. But here we have pretty well-developed evidence that members of the Republican Party just went to election officials, Republican election officials, and that were custodians after the election of the software, and just shook them down and said, give us this stuff, give us the kind of drive that is at the bottom of this software, and took it to a hotel room and just changed, printed out a phony certificate for electors, and otherwise, just tampered with the actual official results. That's a crime pretty clearly, and who knows what the Michigan folks were thinking in giving it to them. They resisted a little some of the shakedown efforts by the Republican Party officials, but they turned over this important data, and that seems to be a pretty straightforward violation of the law in Michigan. So there you have a grand jury definitely investigating. We don't know exactly the state of play as well in Arizona or in Wisconsin, and it sort of matters less. The point is that now new jurisdictions are coming into the act, and it seems likely that the fallout from the 2020 election may continue for years to come. An intriguing, important part of the whole thing: is there any way in which the evidence will point to some coordination between the state officials and people in Washington, even conceivably including Trump, but let's say somebody at the level of a Giuliani, Mark Meadows, somebody within the president's circle? Because really, where do you get the idea to do something so brazen as going to an election branch and shaking down folks? And recall that in December of 2020, Trump wanted to pen an executive order that would have seized all the election machines around the country and put them under the investigative, watchful eye of a special counsel appointed just for the job, Sidney Powell. I kid you not, if you don't forget this. That's where we were. So is it conceivable that any of these cases will wind up not simply inculpating local officials, but will kind of link up also to the national scene? And these are cases that are fairly easy, I'd say, to build relative to cases in Washington. And that's because, let's say you're looking at 15 phony electors in a state. And probably two or three of them were the ringleaders, easiest to sort of tag. And the other 12, it's not like Trump acolytes who feel they have to stay loyal to him. These are people who have local political ambitions and don't want to be ruined or certainly kicked out of their offices. In other words, it might be pretty straightforward to be able to get people to testify, at least as against the ringleaders. And were any of those ringleaders? Do any of them go actually all the way to Washington and the Trump organization? Maybe. It goes to show that we're going to be, exhuming the sort of toxic waste from January 2020, I'd say for years to come. But there are other state prosecutorial authorities now in on the act. So trouble for the people who, thought they could get away with political fraud and subterfuge, no sense mincing words, back in 2020. And then potentially maybe some of them know something about the national scene because, it seems likely that they weren't all just acting as free agents. So just there's the basic news. Other states in on the act, and especially Michigan, and there's an active grand jury there. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.